Hi there, this is Craig Beck from StopDrinkingExpert.com, and welcome into this video where I'm going to try and talk you through how my course has helped over 200,000 people just like you to quit drinking. Now, first of all, let me say I understand that you're probably skeptical. Why? Well, because I would have been. Nobody has ever arrived at my website and it's been their first attempt at quitting drinking. I'm never anyone's first port of call. Most people arrive at my door with dozens, if not hundreds, of failed attempts in their history, whether that was trying to moderate or quit drinking completely. So when I pop up on the internet making statements like you can quit drinking easily, without willpower, without medication, without any silly gimmicks or anything like that, I understand that your first response to that statement is going to be skepticism. You're going to think that it's too good to be true, surely. Because I know quitting drinking is difficult. I've tried it many times. And so what I'm hoping to demonstrate to you here is how my course works and why it makes sense and why it has such a dramatic impact on people's lives. The goal of the course is not just to get you to quit drinking, but to have you fall in love with the alternative. There's no point giving up alcohol if then you're just miserable. The objective here is for you to fall in love with sobriety, not just to quit drinking. And it works. It works amazingly well. And you don't need to take my word for that. If I was just here making very grand claims and you couldn't verify it in any way, then your skepticism would be warranted and well-deserved. But you can do this research for yourself. Just have a little look around the internet. Go looking for reviews of the Stop Drinking Expert process, and you'll find they are everywhere and they are consistently good. Proven Expert is an independent review website, and you will see here that we are rated 5 stars excellent with 1,566 verified reviews. Just think about that for a moment. This is not a product or a concept like buying a car or booking a holiday room or a vacation or anything like that. To publicly go and put your stamp of approval on something as sensitive as quitting drinking, that takes a lot. So can you imagine how many people wanted to leave a review for our program, but just wanted to stay anonymous? So we have 1,500 people on Proven Expert saying that this is excellent. And you can scan through the reviews for yourself and get a complete, comprehensive opinion of what people are saying. If you don't want to take the view of Proven Expert, you can go and try Trustpilot. 1,450 verified reviews, excellent rating. And again, you can scan through and see what people think. So you can do that in your own time. I don't need to spend too much time talking about that. The fact is, this works. It works because it's logical, because it makes sense. I'm not here to tell you to give your problem to a higher being or to do any sort of silly routine or to take any dangerous medication or anything like that. I am talking to you in common sense, logically, to change the belief structure you have around alcohol. And that is the premises of this. And if you think that's not enough to stop you drinking, let me prove it to you in one paragraph. If you're drinking to get that buzz, that euphoria, then why don't you use heroin? It's much better. It's a much more powerful drug. The high is much higher. Why are you using alcohol with its tiny little buzz that it gives you? And the answer is very simple, because your programming, your belief structure is perfectly aligned around heroin. And yet it is broken, tainted, distorted around alcohol. So my goal here as your coach is to get your mindset the same about alcohol as it is about heroin and other drugs. Because I'm pretty sure that I couldn't tempt you to do some heroin. No matter how much I tried, I couldn't get you to inject heroin into your arm right now. That's where we're going with this. So let me show you how it works. The title says it all. How do you quit drinking without willpower, AA, or medication? I'm going to talk about 3 things today. 3 myths, 3 misconceptions about alcohol and quitting drinking. Myth number 1, quitting drinking is difficult. You may have evidence to say that that's true. I've got evidence to say it's not. Myth number 2, you're an alcoholic and you always will be. Even if you quit drinking, you will just be a recovering alcoholic. You heard that story before? How depressing. It's not true. Let me tell you why. Myth number 3, life will be boring without alcohol. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about me first. My name is Craig Beck, and for 2 decades of my life, I had a severe problem with alcohol. Now, don't get me wrong. For the first 10 years of that, I didn't believe I had a problem with alcohol. In fact, if you challenged me on my drinking, I would at any time I like. Or I'm only hurting myself. It's got nothing to do with you. Keep your nose out of my business. Now, of course, we know that problem drinking doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone in your life. Your partner, your children, your family, your friends, everyone who knows you is affected when you get into trouble with alcohol. So I spent 10 years in denial. And then I woke up and realized that I was getting very sick, very ill, very poor, very frustrated, very unhappy. And I spent 5 years trying to moderate my drinking. I tried everything. Nothing worked. I had short-term success. Maybe I'd go a month without drinking, but then I'd always fall back to where I was before. And I was just going round and round in a circle until one day I worked out that unless you change your belief structure, unless you change at your core what alcohol means to you, you will never succeed. As long as you rely on willpower, going cold turkey and promising yourself you won't drink. As long as you rely on willpower, you have a 90 why you have repeatedly failed to get an angle on your drinking, to moderate or to stop completely, is purely because of this 95% number, because you have used the conscious mind to try and deal with the problem in your subconscious mind. Now, your conscious mind basically is that part of your brain that is very weak, but very vocal. It's always talking. It's always judging. It's always asking questions. It's judging me right now. Your conscious mind is listening to what I'm saying, and it will take some things on board and it will listen to other things and say, garbage, not having that, rubbish. So it's always questioning, it's always judging, but it's very vocal. It's always shouting and screaming, but it's very, very weak. The most it can do is 1 or 2 tasks at a time. This is why when you're a child, you may have been challenged to pat your head and rub your belly at the same time, and you couldn't do it. Or you could do it, but it looked really awkward. And that's because you had to consciously do it. There was no program in your head for patting your head and rubbing your belly at the same time. It's not something you need every day. And so no program exists. So you had to do it consciously. And that's why it was so awkward. For example, even if I say, take your finger and move it from there and put it on the tip of your nose, you might think you're consciously doing that, but you're not. You are consciously making the decision to do it and then passing it over to the subconscious mind. Because this little action here requires the movement of about 57 different muscles in a very specific order. Frankly, if you try to do it with your conscious mind, it would take you about 4 hours. You'd be soaked in sweat and you would look like a stroke victim. Your conscious mind is weak and pathetic. Meanwhile, your subconscious mind is vast. It is huge. It is infinite. It is unbelievably powerful. It's not doing 1 or 2 things at a time. It's doing millions of things at a time. For example, right now, it's beating your heart in perfect rhythm. It's controlling your breathing. It's aware of the temperature of the room and the air around you. It's keeping all of your functions going. It's moving your muscles in perfect order. It's doing all these things. It's infinite, it's vast, and it's amazing. And here's the thing, it never questions anything, never judges, never has an opinion, to the point that it will do things to your detriment. It will facilitate your drinking habit until it kills you. And you might think, well, why would a part of me do that, Craig? Why would my subconscious kill me? Well, remember, it has no intention. It has no point of view. It just completes the programs that the conscious mind gives it. And in a way, this is kind of a life-saving part of your brain, because do you really want your subconscious mind to debate with you in moments where it needs to save your life? For example, if you're crossing the highway and a car comes screaming towards you, your conscious mind identifies you're in trouble, and then passes the command to the subconscious mind for completion. But at this point, what you want the subconscious mind to do is action, right? You don't want the subconscious mind to go, is it really that fast? Do you think it's going to hurt us? Do you think we should start running with our right foot or our left foot? It doesn't do anything like that. It just does. All right? Now, here's the secret to why you failed to quit drinking on your own so far. Your drinking problem is not in your conscious mind. You have done it so often. You have used alcohol to solve life's problems so often that the subconscious mind has been watching that and it has said, okay, you don't need to think about this anymore. Let's create a program. Let's put it in the subconscious mind because he's going to do this lots of times. Let's create a routine so he doesn't have to think about it, or she. So your drinking problem resides in your subconscious mind. Now, when you wake up in the morning and you say, that's it, I'm never drinking again, I'm quitting drinking, this is a conscious mind element. Effectively, you are trying to fight your subconscious mind with your weak and pathetic conscious mind. It's like trying to move a mountain with a teaspoon. You have no chance. Effectively, what you have been repeatedly doing for years is turning up to a gunfight with a knife over and over again, and you keep getting beaten and you don't know why. This is why, because you're using the wrong tools for the job. Okay? So myth number 2, you're an alcoholic and you always will be. Now, if you've been to AA, you'll have heard this story. One of the first things you have to do is you have to admit that you're an alcoholic. And even if you don't drink again for 20, 30 years, you're still an alcoholic. You're just a recovering alcoholic. Now, to me, that doesn't make any sense at all. In fact, alcohol is the only drug on planet Earth where when you get into trouble with it, they blame you and not the drug. That doesn't happen with any other substance. For example, if you quit smoking, if you tell people I've quit smoking, they don't say, oh, yeah, okay, but you're still a smoker. You're just a recovering smoker. They don't do that, do they? They say, okay, well done, fantastic. But with alcohol, you tell them you've quit, they go, oh, yeah, but you'll always have a problem. And that word alcoholic, in my course, I'll never call you an alcoholic because I wouldn't give the label to myself, because it implies there's something wrong with me and something wrong with you, and there isn't. Look, alcohol is the second most addictive substance on planet Earth, just behind heroin. So if you repeatedly drink it and get addicted, I don't know why that's seen as some freak occurrence or that you're a weirdo or that there's something wrong with you. Surely repeatedly drinking a highly addictive substance equals addiction, right? Getting addicted to alcohol is the perfectly logical conclusion of your actions, not evidence that you are weak or broken. Think about it. Giving someone a label like alcoholic would be like me coming round to your house, sneaking into your bedroom and sprinkling itching powder into your underwear. And then the next day when I saw you scratching and itching and came up to you, I'd say, oh, you're a scratchaholic. You're a dirty scratchaholic. Even when you stop scratching, you'll still be a recovering scratchaholic. You wouldn't say, yeah, fair enough, Craig. You'd object, wouldn't you? You'd say, Craig, that's ridiculous. The only reason I'm scratching is because you put itching powder in my pants. Well, here's the wake-up call for you. The only reason you're addicted to alcohol is because you drank alcohol repeatedly. Let's break that cycle. The third thing I wanted to talk about is this myth that you can't quit drinking because life will be boring. It's so nonsensical. I wish I had the words to demonstrate to you how twisted that statement is. You know, alcohol doesn't facilitate a good time. You look at the language that we use about alcohol. We talk about being wasted, trashed, hammered, slaughtered. Oh, did you hear about Dave last night? He was absolutely damaged. The word slaughtered, look it up in the dictionary. There are no good connotations to slaughtered. You know, when you go to the bar and the barman says, what's your poison? We just ignore it like, oh, yeah, what's my poison? I'd like a glass of poison. But we don't even hear it anymore. We're so deep into the rabbit hole of alcohol. The clues are everywhere. And, you know, I've made this point many times, and I'll make it one more time here. I've been an orator for 20 years of my life. I'm a former broadcaster. I speak for a living. And yet, after 12 years of doing this, I still can't find the words to describe how good sober feels compared to when I was drinking. And you will hear that story repeated many times. So this is the premise of my course. I'm going to take you through that process, and I'm going to change your life. Not just your relationships, your health, your mental health, your mood, your career, everything's going to get better, but also you're going to save a ton of money as well. Here's an awkward, difficult little math exercise to do. How much are you spending at the moment on alcohol? One bottle of wine a day? Well, that's about $310 a month, $3,720 a year. How many years have you been drinking? For me, 20 years. One bottle of wine a day is nearly $40,000 a year. It's crazy, isn't it, right? That's why the average member of my program goes on to save $6,000 a year. And it works. The success stories are everywhere. This is Pete, married man with children, stopping drinking completely changed his life. So, over 200,000 people now living happy, sober lives because of this unique and very special process. Are you ready to be the next? Let's talk about what you're going to go through just as soon as you get started with the course. Here are the modules that you're going to cover in the first 10 days. We go super intensive for the first couple of weeks and then loosen it off. First day, we're going to talk about taking that first step to taking back control. We'll deal with all those assumptions and myths and stories that you've heard that quitting drinking is difficult. If you just quit drinking, you're going to drop down dead, and so on and so on. Day 2, we're going to make a decision. Are you stopping drinking or are you cutting back? Now, I think you know where I'm leaning, but I'll never push you to make that decision. I'll never tell you you have to stop drinking. That will always be your choice. But I'll give you the tools to make a comprehensive assessment of where you should be going. On day 3, we'll talk about making sober your default position, so that at the moment you have a panacea. Whenever life throws you a curveball, a bit of stress, a bit of a problem, what do? You use alcohol to escape the reality. I'm going to change that. So in the future, you have a much healthier default position to everything that comes your way in life. In day 4, we talk about cravings. How do you deal with them? Because let's be realistic. Even when you quit drinking easily, you're still going to have moments where you crave a drink. You could be at a wedding. Someone could push a glass of champagne into your hands. You could be on a flight and they come offering a free drink. And you might get that urge and you might think, well, just one drink won't hurt. I'll tell you how you deal with that. How do you socialize? What about all your drinking friends? How do you deal with them? That's what we talk about day 5. Day 6, it's not just about quitting drinking. Because if you quit drinking and you don't replace it with something, if you leave a vacuum in its place, then one night you're going to be sitting on your own on the sofa, bored and lonely, and you'll think, oh, I'll just have a drink. You've got to replace the alcohol with something better. That's so important. So many people relapse because they take out the alcohol but don't replace it with something better. That's what we talk about day 6. Day 7, let's just talk about drugs, not illegal drugs. Most people wish there was just a tablet they could get from their doctor that would make all their problems go away. A little tablet they could take and hey presto, they no longer have a drinking problem. And you may be tempted to do some research and you will certainly find at least a couple of prescription drugs and many, many herbal bogus treatments out there available. You may be tempted because we're all programmed to take the path of least resistance to go looking for that silver bullet, that magic cure. So let's talk about what's available and whether they work or not. That's day 7. Day 8, how do you explain to your friends and your family that you're now sober and you don't want to drink? And there's 2 very different ways that you deal with this. Firstly, with the people that are very close to you and love you, like your husband or your wife, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister. That's one conversation. It's done very differently to the conversation you have with your drinking buddies and your friends who tease you and say, you've quit drinking, you're no fun anymore, you've changed. And they try and wrestle you back into the loop. First of all, I'm going to tell you why they're doing that. And secondly, I'm going to show you how to deal with it. So that's day 8. Day 9, we talk about staying quit. You know that expression? I think it was Mark Twain that said it. Quitting drinking is easy. Why? I've done it 1,000 times. Staying quit. That's the challenge. So let's talk about how we make this a lifelong passion of yours. So that if I cut you in half, it would say sobriety in the middle, something that you loved, you were passionate about. You don't want to go through life being a dry drunk. You know, you see all these people who are in AA, and every week they go and have a meeting and talk about the thing that they're not allowed anymore and that they hate. And they spend their whole life talking about something they're not allowed anymore. That's not a staying quit, having a happy, sober life. And in module 10, in day 10, we talk about bringing the health back, bringing your passion, focus, energy, and clarity back, bringing back things that you used to love doing, maybe as far back as your childhood, that you dumped because you can't do them while drinking. Life is going to get seriously good when you stop drinking poison on a daily basis. So I'm waiting. I'm ready. I'm going to be your coach. You have direct access to me to take you through this process. If you have any questions or concerns, then I'm going to look after you. But the only thing I can't do is make the first step. In fact, I'm powerless. Everything I know is useless to you if you don't take the first step. So I'm hoping you can see how this works now, and you can see why it works so powerfully well and for so many people. And I hope I've convinced you that the future is very, very bright without the attractively packaged poison in your system. And if I have, then decide now. Don't wait. Decide now. Take that step, click the button below, and get started with me on the most exciting, adventurous, amazing journey of your life, the journey to sobriety. Thanks so much for watching. See you inside the members area.